Is there life on another planet? I don't know. Maybe my guest will tell us.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I mentioned to you on last night's program, as this news broke, that, hey, there might be planets that are like Earth, a little closer to yet another star. Let me tell you something. I have no idea about this stuff, but I'm fascinated about it. I didn't even take an astronomy class. In fact, I enrolled in an astrology class thinking it was an astronomy class in college, and I still make the mistake. My guests think that I thought I was gonna ask my guests about my horoscope. Astrology and astronomy, very different things, FYI. A little punchy at the end of the week, but as you may know, the Friday programs are recorded on the Thursday show, and I just finished my rundown on the Thursday show, and I wondered out loud if there's life on another planet. Could there be Donald Trump types and Vladimir Putin types? And are they having the same kind of battles that we're having? And are the politics the same, or that kind of a thing? I mean, don't tell me that you don't think about those things when life on another planet is possibly prematurely discovered. Anyway, we have two terrific minds from Brown University here to explain this whole thing to us. But first, in case you've been living under a rock, look at this.
Rocked a lot of people's worlds. Using the Spitzer Space Telescope, astronomers have identified 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting a star known as TRAPPIST-1. And at least 3 of the planets have conditions that would allow liquid water to exist.
The discovery gives us a hint that finding a second Earth is not just a matter of if, but when.
TRAPPIST-1 is considered a red dwarf star, 1/12 the size of the Sun and much cooler. And Dr. Paul Callis of UC Berkeley says the planets stay so close to it that completing their orbits takes from 22 days to just 24 hours.
For the innermost planet, by the time you wake up tomorrow, it's already gone around its star and finished its year.
And at a distance of only 39 light years from Earth, the TRAPPIST system is considered in our solar system's backyard. That's good news to the scientists at Cal's SETI Research Center. Their Breakthrough Listen project is using radio telescopes to search for transmissions from other intelligent life forms.
So are there other beings like us that think about the universe in the way that we do, that have a technological capacity like we do, perhaps around other stars, perhaps around TRAPPIST-1?
The biggest question for astronomers has always been, are we alone? But the discovery of water-capable planets so close to us leaves open the possibility that our galaxy could be teeming with Earths supporting some kind of life.
We don't know what that likelihood is. But of course, the discovery of life beyond the Earth would be, I think, the most monumental discovery in the history of science.
It's just fascinating. It's an ongoing study, right? It's just, you'll never have all the answers you're looking for.
Absolutely, that's what astronomy is all about.
Right?
Yep.
Kimberly went to Brown, is not from Brown right now. She's from the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, which is a lot of syllables.
Yes.
Home base in Cambridge?
Yes.
But you're a Rhode Islander.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Nice to have you. And Brian is from Brown.
I am.
And he is an extrasolar planet researcher, which is fascinating to me. Is it this life somewhere else that drives your study?
Well, I'd say it's one of the biggest fundamental questions, right? That's what intrigues us all. That's what I think appeals to the public. I mean, there's a lot of little questions we want to answer along the way, but yeah, certainly, are we alone? Is there somebody else out there? That's the driving force.
What's your instinct tell you?
Statistically, I would feel like there should be, yes. Because as we've been finding out recently, way more stars than we ever expected can host planets. More stars do host planets than don't. So statistically, if there are billions of stars in our galaxy and there are billions of galaxies out there, that's a lot of numbers.
Does that freak you out? Or just really, some people are freaked out by the idea.
I wouldn't say that it freaks me out, but I would say that it is often difficult to comprehend, right? The grandness of it all. It is fascinating.
I'm going to get to some of the meaty stuff first, then we'll get into some of the details on actually what it is that's been found and what you're seeing and what you're thinking. But the bigger picture stuff, let me get this off my chest. How how do astronomers reconcile the concept of God and this stuff?
Well, I don't think they have to clash. I mean, there's no reason why you can't be a scientist who's trying to find extraterrestrial life and also believe in God. I mean, who's to say that God didn't make those other creatures as well? I mean, there doesn't have to be a conflict between beliefs.
You know, in the field of cosmology, there's kind of a point at which there's a point which we can't look past. You know, the cosmic microwave background is kind of this edge to what we can see, and so we can try to describe everything that happens and the mechanics of how things work, but we get to a point where we can't probe any further and understand the why and the reasons behind things. So there's definitely room, I think, for all belief systems.
So if there's an infinite nature to this concept of, you know, a higher power or God, then it doesn't necessarily conflict based on not being able to answer everything, correct?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, there's again, science is focused on describing how things work, not necessarily answering all the questions of why.
Yeah. So I know that's what people think about. You know, lay people who read these stories think, okay, could there be another, you know, planet where conflict exists and war happens and sickness occurs and all that kind of stuff, and then there's the issue of faith and how do you reconcile the two. So I think it's probably reassuring to a lot of people that they can really dig into this astronomy thing without putting behind this notion of Jesus or whoever it happens to be, right?
Sure, and I think it's also important to think too that how we define life and what form that might take in these cases, and we're not saying life exists on these planets either, but as researchers look into this and what they discover, I mean, it could be at the very most basic cellular level still. So, you know, I don't know that we have to jump right ahead to walking around
well, even
people.
Even this idea of water, if water exists on a planet, well, is it really necessary that life has got to be, you know, buoyed by the existence of water?
So the only thing that we can do as scientists, the only way that we can formulate our questions is based upon the experiences that we have around us, based upon what we're able to observe on our planet and in our solar system. And so we have to base our assumptions on what life requires here on Earth. And so that's where we get the basic assumption of water, because on our planet, the only life we've ever observed needs water. Now, could there be life forms out there, whether it be, you know, microscopic, bacterial, or whether it be intelligent civilizations that don't require water? Sure, but we have to start somewhere with where we base our assumptions and our searches.
All right. So this discovery happened how?
Well, they actually used the transit method in order to find that this star, which is a really cool dwarf star too, which I find really fascinating, by the way. So stars come in all shapes and sizes, right? And a lot of people don't know that because a lot of people have more familiarity with our own star, the sun. But there are stars much, much larger, and then there are stars much, much smaller. And they have different amount that they radiate out and different masses and different sizes. So with this star, because it's so cool and so small, you would have think that it'd be really hard to detect a change in the light around it. So the transit method is essentially studying like blocked light. So, you know, you go to a beach on a sunny day, you look down at the sand and you probably see your shadow at some point. Well, astronomers use this sort of shadow method or blocked light in order to find it. So if we're looking at another system outside our solar system and the star is here and the planet's going around it, from our point of view, as it dips in front, we'll notice a reduction in the amount of light from that star. So by studying it over time, we can make certain assumptions as to what's going on. And then it starts to get more complicated from there. But that's how the first original few were actually found.
Yes, you agree? Do you guys, do you know each other well?
No, we don't.
we've
We
never
didn't
met.
know each other.
Oh, okay. I apologize for not knowing that. We do a lot of shows a week. Sorry, folks. If you disagree with anything, just jump in, because I'd love to see expertise, you know, work things out. Do you agree with that assumption?
No, yes, that's a great explanation of the methods that were used. And I want to even emphasize one thing, and that is that this star is really cool because it's cool.
It's not hot.
It is not.
It's not going to give you sunburn.
It is nothing like our sun.
Nothing.
And so I think that that's something that maybe the public doesn't quite get from what's been said so far is that this is a really cool star, and it means that these planets that are habitable are really, really close. And the other thing that makes it interesting is that these stars are thought to be the most, there's more stars like this in our galactic neighborhood than there are sun-like stars by a lot. So finding potentially habitable planets around these red dwarf stars, as we call them, is really interesting because there's so many more of them that we have to go look at now and see if systems like this are going to be really, really, really common in the galactic neighborhood.
All right, so we're going to take a pause here. When we come back, we're going to go back to a couple of basics. There's the sun, and there's Jupiter and Neptune, and we're Earth, and we're the solar system, and after that, I get lost. Be right back.
Where you've got sunlight, liquid water, and who knows, possibly organic compounds, you have the possibility for life as we know it.
Well, sunlight is a relative term when it comes to this new discovery, right? Because this is a cooler star. In fact, some of the stuff I've been reading indicates that like sundown, maybe, from any one of these planets rotating around this brand new star that's been discovered, or these planets that have been newly discovered, it's kind of like a continuous, really cool sunset at best, right? Or a twilight that's very different than we are looking at.
So yeah, even though these 7 exoplanets are all pretty close, it's kind of like the idea of them having to huddle around a fire, right? Because that sun, this cool dwarf star is, if let me remember my numbers correct, it's about 8% the mass, I believe, of our sun.
Yes, that's right.
It's around the size, a little bit bigger than Jupiter, and its production output, it's like 0.5% of our sun's radiation. I think I'm getting that right. So this is ultra cool, really small. I mean, if you imagine something the size of Jupiter in place of our sun.
So if people are hanging out on any one of those planets, they're wearing a lot of sweaters.
Right, yeah,
Right.
maybe.
Again, well, it's not that, that is really way underneath the level of this discourse. There's no doubt about that. There's the solar system, the planets that operate around our sun, the solar star, the sun. The solar system is part of a galaxy.
Yes.
Outside the galaxy is
A local group of galaxies.
that comprise the universe.
Well, many more galaxies, galaxy clusters, and then all wrapped up in the universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are these planets that we just found in that thing? Where are they?
Like I said, they're in our galactic neighborhood. I mean, even though we're talking about something that is 20, 30, 40 light years away, in the grand scheme of things, that's like right next door. That's kind of right down the street in our galactic neighborhood. The closest star to us, Proxima Centauri, is about 4 light years away. So this is 10 times as far as Proxima is, but still one of the closest stars to us.
So the stars we see in a beautiful sky at night are where?
Oh, they're all varying distances. So light year is the distance that light travels in a year, which is about 10 trillion kilometers, give or take. It's a little lower than that. So 40 times 10 trillion kilometers, and that tells you how far away it is. For example, radio that was being transmitted around the time that I was born has probably just recently reached this system, which means they're hearing a lot of disco, I guess. Late 70s, would that be disco still? I'm not sure. So hopefully they don't hold that to us now. There's no they, I'm joking. So anyways, the point is it is really close because 40 light years away is nothing. We study stars that are many thousands of light years beyond that, galaxies that are millions of light years.
The ones that we see are how far away?
Well, it depends. I mean, like Kim said, it depends on the brightness. And so, for example, some of these stars, the star that we're talking about now, even though it's close, you can't see it because it's so dim. So brightness plays a big role in that. But again, most of the stars you see, all of the stars you see are kind of in the galaxy. Right? So again, we're not talking in the grand scheme of the universe.
And this particular discovery is in the galaxy.
It is, yes.
And right down the street in the galaxy. Only about 40 light years
About 40
away.
light years away.
Meaning it would take you...
Oh.
So this is an interesting question. So
Too long.
Some of the rough back of the envelope calculations say, well, if you're able to travel there at the speeds of, say, something like New Horizons, which is going 47 times the speed of light, it would still take you something like 800,000 years to get there. So this is not, we can't revive the shuttle
Captain
mission and
Kirk's
hop
not
in
getting there.
and head out
Not
tomorrow.
yet. Not with current technology. We would have to have something much faster
Absolutely.
than that.
So getting
that's
there,
okay.
traveling these things is still a long way away. But there's people working on it, working on technologies now to hopefully make interstellar travel a possibility in the future.
The future is even, I can't even comprehend the future you're talking about. The future you're talking about is project. I mean, you guys have to think about this all the time. How far out there is that future?
Oh, that I don't know.
It ain't my grandkids. It's
Probably not. But the thing is, we can do so much here from Earth, right? Even though we can't travel there, we don't really need to. It would be a really long journey, so that's, we're going to move that off the shelf. But from here, just around our own planet, we can do a lot of studying of these systems and figure out more about them. I mean, it's really amazing to know that all 7 of these exoplanets are Earth-like. I mean, it's just a really cool thing. So Goldilocks now has, instead of 3 bears, Goldilocks now has 7 bears to be weird, creepy stalking with, in order to find her, just right. And maybe more than 1 are just right for a habitable zone. We don't know yet. The thinking is that approximately 3 are in the habitable zone as we consider it the traditional habitable zone. But maybe it's more.
And in the near term, if you want to talk about the timescales of over the next couple of years, we're talking about these may have water. There may be, atmospheres. All of these things that we're saying there may be. We actually do hope to be able to answer a lot of those questions just in the next couple of years with follow-up observations from ground and space-based telescopes.
And historically, when I first started working in astronomy about almost 2 decades ago, there were only a few candidates at the time for exoplanet discovery.
exoplanet means
Planet outside of our solar system. So I am, by the way, an exoplanet enthusiast, not an exoplanet expert like my colleague here. So for me, being able to see the transition of this field from something that was just, beyond fledgling to something now where we have 5,000 really solid exoplanet candidates is amazing. I mean, that's a really fast uptick in a section of astronomy that was science fiction borderline when I started and is now moving towards science fact.
Does it kind of marry, on a very layman term, the kind of growth we've had just in technology? You go back,
Moore's
and,
Law.
and just go back to a 70s movie and see how clumsy phones and this and that. Now, there's my iPhone that does everything but, eat my breakfast right now, right? That's been fast. Is there an equivalent astronomical
Absolutely.
study?
I mean, our
path
ability
here?
to make these detections is driven by advances in technology. And so, 25 years ago, we didn't even know that we were supposed to be looking for exoplanets, right? We thought maybe, but we weren't sure how we would ever do it. And then kind of, we figure out, there's ones that actually transit and eclipse their stars. This is a way that we can go after it. And at the time, the Hubble Space Telescope was up in orbit, but it was launched before we even ever discovered an exoplanet. And so now, as technology has evolved, we've done 5 servicing missions to the Hubble Space Telescope to go upgrade its capabilities.
Well, where was the shot for this one taken from?
This was
from our space or from the planet?
Both. So the Spitzer Space Telescope did some observations, and Spitzer is outside of our atmosphere.
Right.
But there are also ground-based telescopes, which you probably have the list of names down.
I don't have the list, but
that's detail.
But but it was both ground and space-based. There's a telescope called the Spitzer Space Telescope. It's out in orbit. It kind of follows the Earth around the sun and looks out into space, and it looks in the infrared.
Who owns that? We own that?
That's NASA.
Okay.
And it looks in the infrared part of the spectrum, so it can look at things that are cooler than bright sun-like stars very easily, and that's what made Spitzer such a great instrument to look at these red dwarfs.
This is right.
It's fun.
But it seems like it really is a lot of fun. So when we come back, we'll have a few minutes to ask the question: is there some television show somewhere else wondering if we're around? Stay with us. I'm really enjoying this conversation. What are we looking at there, Brian? What is this?
So these are images from findings from the Kepler Space Telescope, which did a survey of the sky and just went and tried to find as many transiting exoplanets as it possibly could, and really was a big driver in increasing the number of exoplanet detections over the last several years.
Okay. And again, exo is places like us outside our solar system or galaxy?
Outside our solar system.
Outside our solar system. You know, I could talk to you guys all day long. You as a visualization lead, do what? What does that mean?
It means I use data to tell stories about the universe. So that story can take the form of a tweet, that form can take a data-based image, or it could be a 3D model. So yes, I literally carry around 3D models of exploded stars in my purse. So for me, what's really exciting is...
Does it make you informed and really expert, or just a nerd?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy owning my nerdiness. I think it's kind of cool these days. I'm not sure.
No, I think it's
No?
really cool.
Oh, it
no,
is?
No, I
Okay.
think it's fascinating. And you were just showing me some paperwork. You can't see it, but this is, what is this doodling going on here? You were working with an undergrad trying to explain the whatever. What?
I combed through these Spitzer Space Telescope observations, looking for these little bumps in the signal. That
Thinking
might
what?
be
You're going to find
planets.
something somebody hasn't?
Well, it's to do two things. It's maybe to find something somebody hasn't, but it's also to go back and try to figure the size of this little bump I'm looking for. Tells me what the size of the planet is. It gives me the radius of the planet, and so we can use that to then figure out a whole lot more about what we're dealing with here.
This is obviously you love your work.
Oh yeah, I do.
It's like completely fascinating.
It's the best job ever.
Are you able to just kind of like go to a ball game and not worry about whether there's stuff going on out there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you're able to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff.
You got to be able to decompress.
You're not.
I don't separate well, I will be honest, but when I do go to ball games, I'll find analogies there that I can use to help talk about astronomy and science in a different way.
Well, you're really good at it. You're a teacher. You help to teach
Thank
people
you.
about it.
Thank you.
Correct?
That's nice.
And I know you're a professor.
No, still a graduate student.
Oh, you are good to be a graduate student. You're going to be a professor.
One day,
Whatever.
everything works out.
Someday.
Whatever, but you know, you're in here. He's more heady than you are. You're more able to translate.
I like the idea of a translator. Yeah, I'll go with that.
All right, so do you
Yeah.
think that there's, I guess we go back to the beginning. Do you think there's some life out there wondering if they can find us? Is that at the end what we're really wondering here?
Well, like I said, yeah, so going back to the beginning, I think that's what we're all wondering now. Is it? Who knows? You know, like Kim said, life can take on many forms. Maybe what we find is some microbial life one day rather than an intelligent life. You know, even though the statistics seem to be on our side, there's so many stars that can have so many planets.
It must be incredible knowing you're studying something that in your lifetime you'll never have all the answers to.
Yeah, but that's the most exciting part. It truly is. I mean, I get to go to work and learn something new every single day. I love that.
Nerd, educator, smart person, professor to be, drawer of pictures, wonderer.
Holder of plastic.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks for coming. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. It just kind of reminds me that you're really fortunate if you love your work, you know, and if you don't love your work, maybe you should try to figure out how you can find another thing to do. Because when I meet people like this from the astronomy world who love their work, it's contagious, no matter what it is that we do. It's fascinating stuff. And who's working in what part of the galaxy? I don't know. Good night.